Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Toasted. I'm your host Gabe, and today we're going to make sun-dried tomato bruschetta. Yes, we're fancy today. Alright, so first we're going to start with the sun-dried tomato part. So I got some nice, beautiful Roma tomatoes, some sea salt, and some olive oil. And then to put in the oil mixture that we're going to use for the sun-dried tomatoes, I got some fresh garlic, olive oil, and some Italian seasoning. And then for our bruschetta portion of this, once our sun-dried tomatoes are done, I got some fresh mozzarella cheese, some fresh basil, my balsamic oil mixture, and we're going to make some toast points. Alright, let's get started. So I have a nice clean cutting board, and then we're going to cut up our Roma tomatoes. So for the Roma tomatoes, you want to cut the tops off, and then you're going to cut them in half, and then you're going to cut them in half again. So you're going to do that with all your tomatoes. And then the idea with sun-dried tomatoes is you want to remove as much moisture as possible. So by doing that, you have to get rid of the seeds. Like so. No seeds. So we're going to do that with the rest of our tomatoes and then go to the next step. So we got all of our tomatoes de-seeded. Now we're going to sprinkle these with some sea salt and some olive oil, and then we're going to throw these in the oven at 275, probably for about 2 hours, maybe even 3, just until, well, basically they almost look like raisins is kind of what you're going for. Hence the sun-dried part. So let's do that. Now, the reason I'm using sea salt is because sea salt is a much coarser type of salt, and so it draws out a lot more moisture. Now we're going to drizzle some olive oil. Okay, so we're going to throw these in the oven at 275 for, like I said, at least 2 hours, or until they're looking like tomato raisins. Okay, so our tomatoes are in the oven. So while we're waiting on our tomatoes, we are going to make our oil mixture that our sun-dried tomatoes are going to sit in. I got a fancy little mason jar. Now we're going to chop probably 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. You don't want a whole lot because this is going to technically be a marinade. And so you want to make it strong, but you don't want to make it too strong because there is such thing as too much of a good thing. So we're only going to do probably 2, maybe 3, depending on how small they are. So since I got a lot of tomatoes, I'm going to go with about 3 cloves of garlic. So the nice thing about this garlic is it doesn't have to look pretty because you're not eating the garlic, you're just using it for flavor. So honestly, I'm just going to give it a rough chop, maybe even just slice it, and then we're going to put it in a mason jar. Okay, we got our garlic chopped. So now we're going to add in some of our Italian seasoning. Now obviously you can use fresh herbs like thyme, rosemary, and parsley. I'm going to go a little heavy because, like I said, you're not necessarily eating the Italian seasoning, you're eating the sun-dried tomatoes. And so it's for flavor and make it look all nice and pretty and everything else. So you just need about a tablespoon, maybe even a tablespoon plus a teaspoon. Like I said, flavor, and looks, not necessarily to eat. So there's that. Now with the olive oil, we're only going to fill this up probably about halfway, maybe even a little less than halfway, because once we start putting our tomatoes in, this is going to fill up very quickly. And so we don't want to put too much in, because if we put too much in, then we don't have any room to put our tomatoes and we have oil everywhere and it's a big mess. So we're only going to fill up our jar probably about halfway, but for now we're just going to fill this up probably right about here. Okay, so we have this. We're going to put our lid on it and set it off to the side, and then once our tomatoes done, we'll put our tomatoes in our jar and then we'll refrigerate them for at least an hour or 2, enough to incorporate everything into the tomatoes. And then once we're done with these, then we'll get started on our bruschetta. Alright, so our sun-dried tomatoes are done. So now we're going to put them in our jar of oil and let them sit in the fridge for a few hours. See, they look like tomato raisins. tomato raisins. All right, let's get started. All right, so we got our bread. We're gonna cut these into slices, and then we're gonna put some olive oil and some salt on them and toast them. And then once they're done toasting, we're gonna put together a bruschetta. Drizzle some olive oil. Some sea salt. Okay, we're gonna throw these in our oven at 350, just for 3 or 4 minutes, just long enough to get toasted, and then we'll start making our bruschetta. So next, we're gonna cut our cheese. See what I did there? Cut the cheese. Funny. Anyway, so we're gonna cut these in about half moons, since our bread is only about that big. We don't want to make it bigger than the piece of bread, so we're just gonna cut this in half. Then we're gonna cut these into small moons. Okay, now we're gonna chiffonade our basil, and chiffonade just means tiny ribbons. Tear them off the stems. Best way to do this is to stack it and then roll them nice and tight, like so. Hold it there, and then just like so. You want to be gentle because it is fresh herbs, and so you don't want to bruise the leaves. Basil bruises very easily. Okay, so we got our mozz cheese sliced, we got our basil, we got our balsamic oil, we got our sun-dried tomatoes, and we got our toast points. Let's assemble some bruschetta. Nice clean white plate. Take our 2 nice toast points. We're actually gonna do 3. So for some reason, fancy restaurants always do odd numbers. I think it's for appeal, I'm not sure, but it is what it is, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So next, I think I'm gonna put my cheese on. So I want to find a nice, decent slice of cheese right here, like this one. Just gonna lay him like so. And it'll give the cheese a chance to maybe even melt a little bit. It'd be nice. But man, do I love fresh mozzarella cheese. Okay, like so. And then we're gonna take our sun-dried tomatoes. I wish you could smell this right now. This stuff smells so good. It's the only way I eat tomatoes is if they're sun-dried tomatoes. It's the only way. I love sun-dried tomatoes. Okay, we're gonna take one right here, one right here. Nice big juicy one right here. And we're gonna take some of our basil, let it fall, like so. Okay, and then we're gonna take our balsamic vinegar. Just gonna lightly. Look at that. Purdy. Alright, let's go enjoy these and see how they taste. Alright, nice purdy. Try one out. Cheers. It's so light and fresh. That acid really helps with the cheese, and then the acid of the tomatoes, but also the oil that the tomatoes adheres. Oh, dude, this is good stuff. The bread's fresh. The basil always knocks it out of the park. This stuff is excellent. I could eat this stuff all day long. All right, guys, there you have it. Sun-dried tomato bruschetta. Fancy stuff, good stuff, tedious stuff, but amazing stuff. If you guys like this video, hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification button next to it to get more videos that I make in the future and more awesome fancy stuff that I do. Continue to tell your friends about it. Tell your grandma, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your second cousin, whoever, tell your friends. On that note, peace out, guys.